Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is a video to compare two fantastic VR headsets, the HTC Vive Pro 2. Seen here, an expensive, premium, best-in-class virtual reality headset from HTC that I've reviewed recently, so check out the links in the description for that. And the HP Reverb G2. I've also unboxed and reviewed this. Check out for links in that. I want to compare these because they are interesting for a number of different reasons. The HP Reverb G2, for example, is a Windows mixed reality / virtual reality headset with inside-out tracking, off-ear speakers, and a pixel count of 4320 by 2160. Which is very nice and was leading until the Vive Pro 2 was announced, because that monster VR headset has a total pixel count of 4896 by 2448 with 120 hertz refresh rate, 120-degree field of view, and a dual stack lens design that make it appealing. Now, the Vive Pro 2 is by far the leading virtual reality headset at the moment, but it's also the most expensive. This setup will cost you around £1,299 or $1,399, while the Reverb G2 is a lot more affordable at just over $600 depending on where you're from in the world, and so it is more appealing in some ways. It also uses inside-out tracking cameras that you can see on the front and side of it, which means it's a lot easier to set up and use than the HTC Vive Pro 2, which requires tracking base stations and a lot of space in order to maximize the potential of it. The Vive Pro 2 is available as either an upgrade or a full-blown purchase, so you can buy the Vive Pro 2 with just the headset for about the same price as the Reverb G2 if you already own a Vive device. However, if you want to buy it outright, you don't have the base stations or the controllers, you're looking at paying a lot more money. You are, however, getting a superior device on paper in terms of the specifications it offers. It has a higher refresh rate. The Reverb G2 only has 90 Hz. It has a wider field of view. The Reverb G2 is 114 degrees, whereas the Vive Pro 2 is 120. It has more pixels. It offers a better visual experience. It's also, in my mind, more comfortable. It has better padding on the front and back and a really nice solid design to it. It also has a nice adjustment wheel at the rear, which makes it easy to use, and you can use those front-facing cameras as a pass-through camera to see the world around you and such. So it's fantastic. And there are a number of reasons that it's very nice. Reasons that aren't nice, though, is this setup. You can see just how much you've got in the box that you need to install in order to get it running. And that is a faff. You need these base stations at a minimum. These are the base stations version 2, which come with the full package. And you need those in order to run it. And you just set up one on either end of your room and maximize your space and make sure they're running and plugged into the main. So you require plugging those in. You need to get them up high and mount them either on the walls or on a tripod or on some sort of wall mount system. And so there are a lot of faff in order to get that set up. However, these base stations do mean that the Vive Pro 2 has superior tracking compared to the Reverb G2, and it can track where your hands are and where your head is and your movement in game a lot better than the Reverb G2. And that is one of the niggles that I had with the Reverb G2, and a lot of other people complained about if you look online, that the tracking for that isn't great. The Vive Pro 2 also requires connection to your PC using this link box, which then uses USB connection and a DisplayPort connection, and it requires power as well. So you need the right DisplayPort. In an ideal world, you need DisplayPort 1.4, but it will work with 1.2, but it will put out less in terms of the visuals and the overall performance. So the minimum specifications of the Vive Pro 2 are actually quite low, and I'll leave that information in the description of this video and of the review so that you can check that out. But if you want to maximize the potential of that incredibly high pixel count screen, and that is really beautiful, by the way, then you need a pretty decent PC in order to run it. You also need to make sure you have a DisplayPort output or adapters. Now, there are no adapters included in the box as standard, so there's no DisplayPort mini adapter, for example. There's no DisplayPort to USB-C adapter either, which there is with the Reverb G2, so it's a lot easier to set up the Reverb G2 out of the box than it is the Vive, unless you have a straight DisplayPort connection already, which you will do if you have a main desktop graphics card, but if you want to use it on a laptop, for example, it's a lot more hassle to do. The Reverb G2 has a similar setup. The cable from the headset runs into this little control box, which then splits into a USB-C connection and a DisplayPort connection. As I said, you have a DisplayPort adapter in the box. You also have an adapter for the USB-C if you don't have USB-C, so that's another option. And then that requires power to be plugged into it. So it's a similar sort of setup with some slight differences, but it's a lot less faff because there's no base stations to worry about because it has inside-out tracking cameras. So it's really easy to plug into a laptop, for example, move it to another room, or just to plug and play with ease. It's a lot easier to set up and get going. However, as I said, the tracking is superior on the Vive Pro, almost certainly, in terms of tracking your head and hand movement, and therefore it leads to a more satisfying experience, but it's not as simple to use. Now, the Reverb G2 is interesting, as I said, because it's a Windows mixed reality headset as well as a SteamVR headset. So you can see the controllers here have that Windows mixed reality vibe to them, and I'll talk to you a bit more about that later on. It also has a fairly straightforward, although old school design in terms of the headband. You'll see there's Velcro straps on the top and either side, and that's how you then extend the size of it. It does have some nice padding on the front and rear, and it's fairly easy to get into a good position and make it comfortable to sit on your head. And I didn't find that it was obnoxiously heavy or uncomfortable during use. In fact, it was pretty decent in that way and nice and comfortable. The design of the headset also has these off-ear speakers which are designed to keep you cool, and they're actually designed by Valve, and they're designed with spatial audio, and they did a good job. And it's nice because they don't sit on the ear, so you can keep cool but also still have a great sound from it with a great bit of spatial audio. And the appeal of this headset is the simplicity of it and the comfort of it and the use of it. The Vive Pro 2 is really straightforward to install as well. It has this adjustment wheel on the back, and as you can see, it has a really sturdy headband design, ergonomically designed with on-ear ear cups. These are high-res certified ear cups, and you can move them up and down and in and out and side to side and whatever else, and it's really easy to get a good fit. And as you can see, it's also easy to get a nice tight fit as well. It won't fly around when you're moving about in VR, which is really nice. Now, the Vive Pro 2 almost certainly wins in terms of the resolution count on the screen. It has a fast switch LCD IPS panel, which has really high pixel density, and it also has a dual stack lens setup, which is basically designed to give you a wider field of view and a true view of the world around you with the highest resolution screen available, both in Vive products and in general. What I will note though is that the lenses have a flat design on the top and bottom. You can see there's a straight line on the top and bottom of them. They're not rounded at the tops, and I did notice that I picked up on this when I was playing with it. I can see those lines, and I can also see the rubber from the nose protection as well. I didn't have that problem with the G2, and the G2 does boast a pretty impressive specification in terms of the resolution it delivers, and I found that it had some really good visuals with it as well, and the results of that is really nice. Also, having that Windows mixed reality option as well as the SteamVR made it really easy to use. Plug it in, automatically launches Windows mixed reality, and then you can jump in from there into a load of other things. It's dead simple to use, it's really nicely designed, and have that cross-pollination between Windows mixed reality and SteamVR makes life dead simple. Now, the Vive Pro 2 comes with the classic Vive controllers. They are superior to the controllers with the Reverb G2, I'll be honest. They are easy to use, they're robust, they're durable. The battery life is semi-decent on them. I got around 5 or 6 hours out of them. They're comfortable, and they have built-in batteries that can recharge with micro USB. They have multiple different buttons on them, but the delight of them is because they've been around for so long, and they're basically the forefather of VR gaming on PC. All games will work with these with very little hassle. They're really easy to access, and they're great fun to play around with. You can wallop things with them without any problem. I've hit walls with them. I accidentally hit my wife once. I was really didn't mean to do it. It was a terrible disaster time. Wouldn't recommend bashing your wife when you're playing VR games, but they are able to stand up to that sort of abuse. The Reverb G2 controllers, by comparison, are a lot smaller. They are battery powered instead with removable batteries. They are mixed reality controllers, and they're nice and they look nice and they fit nicely in the hand, but I found them a bit frustrating because there are a lot of games which don't recognize them as standard. You need to go into Steam's custom settings and reprogram the controllers, or at least the game settings, so that it recognizes the controllers and you can use them more easily within those games, which is a faff. However, they are easy to use within Windows Mixed Reality, and they do have a number of appeals that are covered in the full review, so be sure to check out that video to find out more about that. And the overall experience is not a bad one necessarily. Now, I will note, as I said earlier in this video, that some people have reported problems with the Reverb G2. I didn't have issues with it in the same level. I used it in several different rooms, and I found there were some games where it was a bit iffy, but for the most part it was fantastic. And the tracking was good. But the Vive Pro 2 is certainly superior. It's better in a number of different ways. It's more comfortable, and it has better visuals, and it has better sound. However, I did find that I got a lot hotter when using the Vive Pro 2. I steamed up a lot more. I found I was very hot when playing with it, and that's because it has a lot more padding on it, and also those on-ear speakers sit on your ear and warm you up as well. So that I really like that about the Reverb G2, that the speakers sit off your ear and you don't have that pressure on your ear that's making you hot while you're gaming. However, the Vive Pro 2 is really comfortable thanks to that thick padding, and lasts and lasts. Also, it has this IPD adjustment wheel which goes from 57 to 72 millimeters, which is larger than the Reverb G2, which goes from 60s to 68. So you have a wider range to make sure it'll suit your eyes and will fit a wider range of people. You can adjust the size and depth of the headset with this button on the side, which allows you to extend it. So if you've got large glasses and you need more space in there, you can do that easily. And the end result is a really comfortable headset that I was able to game for hours and hours on, which is ideal if you want to play something like Skyrim VR, where you're going to be running around and exploring the world and fighting dragons and just having a good time. And that is very, very appealing in a VR headset, is that comfort and overall design quality to it. At the end of the day, the HTC Vive Pro is the superior choice. It does come with a few caveats though. It is a lot more expensive for a start. It is also a lot more hassle to set up if you don't have the space for the base station, so that can be a problem. And if you do, there's the question of whether you're going to have them permanently installed or not, for example. The lack of inside-out tracking cameras is a pain, and I wish that they'd improved upon that, what they did with the Vive Cosmos and made it better. But this is certainly the better choice. The Reverb G2 shouldn't be dismissed though, because that is still fantastic, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper if you're not ingrained in the Vive ecosystem. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions, and be sure to check out those other videos linked in the description. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well, and have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel, and most importantly, have a great life.